Good morning. Welcome to North Charleston United Methodist Church. My name is Richard. I get to serve here as the pastor, and we are excited that you're spending some time with us this morning or whenever you're watching this, to be honest. That's the beauty of digital worship, right? You can worship with us wherever you are, however you are, whenever you're watching this. And that's pretty crucial to us because we like to say a couple of things here. This is the place that's okay not to be okay, so that love can truly create change. We're glad that you're here. Hope you find worship to be relevant to where you are in your life and a message to be impactful for the way we live in the world. Welcome to worship.
Allison here. I'm so happy that you could join us this Sunday for worship. I hope everyone's had a great week. If this is your first time with us, we encourage you to fill out a connection card that we have posted in our comments right now. Just fill that out and send it back to us, and we can get some information to you about our church and upcoming events. And I have just one quick announcement. We this week have posted a Facebook event for a virtual vacation Bible school that will run from July 15th until August 12th. This is a 5-week session, so it's just a once a week, every Wednesday at 1 p.m. This will replace our traditional kid worship that we've been doing online since this whole thing started virtually. And so we will do vacation Bible school themes, crafts, science projects. Parents will be emailed links to videos and instructions on how to do the science projects and the crafts. And goodie bags will be distributed just a few days before all of that starts. And I'll get that information out to those who register So if you want your children from ages 4 to grade 5 to participate, again, this is all on your time. It's not a particular time that you have to tune in. If you can't catch it on Wednesdays, you can check it out later that day or later that week. It'll always be on our Facebook page, our web page, YouTube. So this is an at your own pace activity that you can do. So if you'd like for your children to be a part of that, go to our Facebook page, check out the event. There is a link to the registration, and that just gives me an idea of how many kids we're going to have, and I can get information back to you about goodie bags and links and all that good stuff. So I hope y'all check it out. I hope y'all have a good rest of the weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye.
Hey, what I'd love to do in this moment is invite you to pray with me. It's a prayer that comes out of our United Methodist hymnal. It's a covenant prayer in the Wesleyan tradition. It's one that is bold, and it's necessary in these days as we seek to continue finding the best ways that we can to do good, to avoid harm, and to stay in love with God. So would you pray with me? We're going to get the words on the screen right now. I am no longer my own but thine. Put me to what thou will. Rank me with whom thou will. Put me to doing, put me to suffering. Let me be employed by thee or laid aside for thee, exalted for thee or brought low for thee. Let me be full, let me be empty. Let me have all things, let me have nothing. I freely and heartily yield all things to thy pleasure and disposal. And now, O glorious and blessed God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, thou art mine and I am thine, so be it. Yet the covenant which I have made on earth, let it be ratified in heaven. Amen.
By the Lord of sea and sky, I have heard my people cry, all who dwell in dark and sin, my hand will save. The stars of night, I will make their darkness bright. Who will bear my light to them? Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I am Lord of snow and rain. I have borne my people's pain. I have wept for love of them. They turn away. I will break their hearts of stone. Give them hearts for love alone. I will speak my word to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I, the Lord of wind and flame, I will tend the poor and lame. I will set a feast for them. My hand will save. Finest bread I will provide, till their hearts be satisfied. I will give my life to them. Whom shall I send? Here us come together, walking in the Spirit. There's much to be done. We will come reaching out from our comforts, and they will know us by our love. Sisters, we were made for kindness. We can pierce the darkness as He shines through us. We will come reaching with a song of healing, and they will know us by our love. The time is now. Come, church, arise. Love with His hands, see with His eyes. Bind it around you, let it leave you, and they will know us by our love. Children, you are hope for justice. Stand firm in the truth now. Set your hearts above. You will be preaching long after we're gone, and they will know you by your love. The time is now. Come, church, arise. Love with His hands, see with His eyes. Bind it around you, let it never leave you, and they will know us by our love. The time is now. Come, church, arise. Love with His hands, see with His eyes. Bind it around you, let it never leave you, and they will know us by our love. Bind it around you, let it never leave you, and they will know us by our love. The time is now. Come, church, arise.
You know, one of my favorite TV shows to watch right now is on Netflix, and it's a TV show called Queer Eye. If you've never seen it, I really recommend it. It's an incredible show. It's kind of technically, I guess it's a makeover show, but really, it's so much deeper than that, right? On Queer Eye, you have these five people known as the Fab Five. If you know who the Fab Five are, like, good on you. They're incredibly beautiful people. Each of them, each one of the five people, they have their own specialty. They have their own focus that they bring into somebody's life, right? You have Bobby, right? Bobby works on spaces and homes and contracting and construction. Anthony is this incredible cook, and he helps people with nutrition and how to be a cook in their own homes to take better care of themselves. Karamo is kind of like a life coach or a counselor. And then you've got Jonathan, who works on hair and hygiene and skincare. But my favorite, if I'm being totally honest with you, my personal favorite is Tan France. My personal favorite is Tan France, because Tan is the fashion expert, right? He's the guy who does all the clothes. He helps people with how they dress and the clothes that they wear. But I mean, honestly, even listening to those words coming out of my mouth right now, even though I wrote them, they sound kind of hollow, because it's about so much more than that. If you've ever watched the show, and I can't stress this enough, you should definitely go watch it. He has this incredible ability, this beautiful ability, to help people see who they really are, right? To visualize who they really are, to help them, face some of their own fears, to face some of their own insecurities, and actually begin to embrace their own beauty that some of them feel like they might not have ever even seen before. It's this incredible thing to watch as people literally kind of take off their own insecurities, their own self-doubt, sometimes even their own self-hate, right? To almost literally and metaphorically, you watch them change. You don't actually watch them change clothes, but they go in and they come out. You know what I mean by watching them change clothes, right? You actually see them take off all of these things as they take off their old wardrobe, right? And usually their old wardrobe is something big and bulky so it can hide their physical attributes and sometimes even their own internal attributes that they feel like they need to hide from the world, right? They take off all this old. And Tan has this incredible ability to help them put on something totally new. It's moments like that in this show. It's exactly why Queer Eye is called More Than a Makeover, right? Because sometimes clothes are more than clothes. Sometimes more clothes are more than clothes. Think about it. We know that already. How many of us, we're scrolling through Facebook, we're scrolling through Instagram, and we see one of those transformation stories that just tugs on our heartstrings, right? We see somebody, they've been living on the streets, and they're living in the same old clothes, and their hair is just kind of everywhere, and it's crazy, and we watch, we're like, oh my goodness, and they get a haircut and a new wardrobe, and they look like a new person, and they say they feel like a new person, and sometimes they even act like a new person. Because sometimes clothes are more than clothes. I mean, think about this, right? You got a big day at work. You got a big interview coming up. You got a big day where you're looking for a promotion. You got a big presentation. What are we going to do, right? We're going to put on the power suit. I know when I've got to speak at annual conference or when we're in D.C. lobbying for immigration reform, like there's certain ties that I wear because I feel empowered when I wear them, right? Something that makes you feel bold and powerful and strong. I mean, you're going to go to a ball game, football game, baseball game, softball game, whatever. You're going to wear the right colors so that everybody knows who your people are. You got first dates, weddings, proms. What do? We dress accordingly because clothes sometimes are more than just clothes. It's more than just what we wear. It pushes us somewhere deeper. Did you know that in the early church, almost all of the baptisms happened on Easter weekend? Almost all the baptisms happened early on Easter morning. It's actually where we get the sunrise service from. All the people, they would gather on the outside of the sanctuary. They would face the west. I'm facing the west, by the way. They would face the west because early in the morning, guess what? The west is the what sky? The dark sky. So they would face the west. They would face the dark sky in the clothes of their old life. They would spit at their old life. They would take off all of their clothes. They would take off all of their old life. They would get naked, like full on naked. We don't do that in church anymore because that might be strange. But they spit at their old life. They strip down. They get totally naked. They enter into the cleaning waters of baptism. They come out a new person. They immediately are clothed in a new white robe. And they go into the sanctuary for their first communion. Why? Because sometimes clothes represent more than just the clothes that we wear. So this week, if you haven't figured this out yet, this week, we're going to talk about how the clothes that we choose to wear will determine how we change the world. Quite simply, we're going to talk about how the clothes we choose to wear will determine how we change the world, because we're not going to be idle in this conversation. Every single one of us in the week ahead, we're going to change the world somehow, whether we want to or not. With active hands or idle hands, with active mouths or idle mouths, we are going to change the world somehow, either through our silence, inaction, or action. So the question is how we are going to impact it. We're going to talk about how the clothes that we wear will help us subvert and perhaps even transform the brokenness we see outside, the broken empire of our world, right? Because that's our job. I don't know if you realize that is actually our job. That's our calling, and today it's our choice. I want to read to you a little bit from Wendell Berry. Wendell Berry in his assessment of the church. It says, despite protests to the contrary, Modern Christianity has become willy-nilly the religion of the state and the economic status quo because it has been exclusively dedicated to, listen to this, incanting anemic souls into heaven. It has been made the tool of much earthly villainy. Christianity, has for the most part stood silently by while a predatory economy has ravaged the world, destroyed its natural beauty and health, divided and plundered its human commodities and communities and households. Christianity, has flown the flag and chanted the slogans of the empire. It is assumed with the economists that economic forces automatically work for the good. It is assumed with the industrialists and the militarists that technology will determine history. It is assumed with almost everybody that progress is good. It has admired Caesar. Christianity has comforted Caesar and comforted him in the depredations of his own faults. It is in de facto alliance with Caesar. Christianity connives directly in the murder of creation. That's Wendell Berry's assessment of the church. And if you look much at the news, I don't think he's that wrong. So we decided last week that we're not going to sit idly by anymore. We decided last week that we're not going to stand silently by anymore. We decided last week it's not enough to go thoughts and prayers. We decided last week that we were going to be different. We said we're going to plant mustard seeds. We're going to be yeast. We're going to be those small little things that break the satanic chains that have held people for so long, because that is how the kingdom of heaven comes on earth. If you missed any of those conversations, please, you can go watch it on YouTube, on Facebook. You can listen on our podcast. There's more ways than ever to catch up on this part of the conversation, because we said it's time for us to be different. Stake in the ground. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. We are not going backwards. We are only going forward together. So this week we find ourselves in Paul's letter written to the people in the Colossian church as they and we look for practical next steps. So we're in Colossians chapter 3. We're going to be listening as Paul begins to lay out this pattern for living into a new Christian community. If we can't live in the empire, what is the thing that we're going to live into? If we can't live in this way, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to be different? How are we supposed to be us? How are we supposed to be mustard seeds and yeast? So we're going to pick up in Colossians chapter 3, starting in verse 8, reading all the way to verse 14. But you now must get rid of all such things: anger, wrath, malice, slander, abusive language from your mouth. Don't lie to one another, seeing that you've stripped off the old self with its practices. Now having clothed, because sometimes clothes are more than clothes, clothed yourselves with the new self, which is being renewed in the knowledge according to the image of its creator. In that renewal, listen to me, church, in that renewal, there is no longer Greek or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave, and free. But Christ is all and in all. As God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourselves, because sometimes clothes are more than what? Clothes. Clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Bear with one another, and if anyone has a complaint against another, forgive each other. Just as the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. It is literally the ligament that holds our body together. William Barclay has said one of the great effects of the Christian faith is this simply: the Christian faith destroys barriers. One of the great effects of the Christian faith is that it destroys barriers. I believe that. I would stake my life on it. Jesus never found a wall he didn't tear down. He never found a table he didn't flip over. He never found a barrier that he didn't go, no, that is not okay. And that makes me wonder about us today, church. This faith that we ascribe to, this faith that we espouse, this faith, the reputation of our church in North Charleston. Do we destroy barriers or do we erect them? Do we support walls or do we tear them down? When's the last time our love turned over any tables? Right? Our speech, our voting, our actions, our spending. What is the actual effect of our faith in our community? I don't mean aspirational. A lot of churches are like, oh, we aspire to be all those things. Well, good. Do something. What is the actual effect of our faith in our community? See, this Colossian church was flipping the world upside down. This Colossian community was literally destroying barriers. That's why I said in this renewal, in this community, there's neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, Scythian or barbarian, circumcised or uncircumcised. They were destroying the barriers that existed from birth and nationality. Right? Instead of nations that normally would leap at each other's throats across the table to kill one another, they were sitting around the table at peace, dining together. They were tearing down the barriers of ceremony and ritual that said, you're one of us and you're not. The Jew or the Greek, the circumcised or the uncircumcised. Well, you know our language and you're one of us and you're obviously not one of us because you don't love the right way. Destroyed the barriers that were existed and established from the cultured and the uncultured. That's what he's talking about, the Scythian and the barbarian. Right? There were scholars and laborers that sat together in equality and equity in the Colossian church. Barriers that existed between classes of people. Because the Colossian church was bold enough to say that social distinctions of the world are irrelevant in the church. Now, some might say really quickly, I read this the first time and I thought, man, well, does that mean that would Paul be one of these people today that says, well, I don't see color. All lives matter. No. Is this thing on? No. That is not what Paul is saying. Absolutely not. Let me say it again for the people in the back that heard just the neither Jew nor Greek thing. Oh, well, we don't say, no. That is not what Paul is saying at all. He was saying we see all of the differences. We see all of the inequalities. We see all of the inequities. We see all of the injustices of the empire. We see all of these things in all of these different people. We see all of our differences. We recognize all of everyone's different experiences, and there is something that can still bring us together. There is something that can still level the playing field. There is something that can still allow a Jew to be a Jew and a Greek to be a Greek, but Christ brings them together, right? There is something that can unite us. There is something that can create space. There is something that can create equity. There is something that can create equality. The early church was not revolutionary because it forced everybody to be the same. The early church was not revolutionary because it forced everybody into a melting pot. You know what happens in a melting pot? Everybody loses their uniqueness and they're all forced to be the same. And when we say things like, I don't see color, or we're just a melting pot, or just Christ covers everything, what we really mean is we want everybody to be like us so that we don't have to deal with our differences. The early church was not revolutionary because it built a great melting pot. The early church was revolutionary because it perfected the art of building stained glass and kaleidoscopes, where everybody had their uniqueness, their wholeness, their completeness, and together made an incredibly beautiful community. I've never seen a piece of stained glass art that all got melted together and was beautiful. What makes it beautiful is all of the uniqueness gets recognized as an equal part to play and an equal story to tell. Do you hear the difference? If you don't hear the difference, put it in the comments right now. Call me. Let's have a Zoom conversation. Let's talk on the front porch because this is crucial. Our job today is to continue the latter instead of enforcing the former. Do you hear me? Our job today is to continue the latter, building a space for all people to have a voice around a round table, instead of enforcing the former of you need to be the melting pot, which really means I need you to look like me and act like me and vote like me and be like me. I don't care what your story is, just be like me. How do we do that? Well, guess what? Sometimes clothes are more than clothes. How do we do that? By choosing what clothes we wear. He says, so as God's chosen ones, right? He just said in that renewal, there's going to be none of this stuff. Everybody's going to be together. How? As God's chosen and holy ones, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, patience, bear with one another, forgive with one another, and above all else, put on the garment of love. So we have to ask ourselves, are we going to wear anger and wrath or compassion and kindness? Here's a question. Are we going to think, are we going to admit that we don't know everything? If you're out there right now and you're a white guy like me, are you willing to say, listen, as a white guy, I don't know what it's like to be a person of color. I don't know what it's like to be a female. Are we willing to admit that we don't know everything, which means, guess what? We might need to turn off our mouth and turn up our listening ears. We used to do it with the kids all the time in chapel. We say, turn them up, turn them up, turn them up, so that we be quiet. Are we willing to admit that we don't know everything so that we can be quiet long enough to listen to somebody else's story? Because every person has a story and every story matters to God. Or are we just going to solidify ourselves, build our bunker, and live within our own echo chambers? Are we going to put on humility or pride? What clothes are we going to put on in this new life? I couldn't think of a more brilliant metaphor. You know why? Because most of us are not walking around naked right now. If you are, just don't tell me, right? I mean, even in a pandemic, right? Even in quarantine, most of us are not walking around naked. We choose what clothes we're going to wear. So let's have the courage to choose compassion. Let's have the courage to choose love. That deep down feeling we get down deep in our bowels. What if North Charleston United Methodist Church all of a sudden got the reputation for being the bleeding heart church, and we wore that as a badge of honor because that meant we had compassion that literally bled out of us, right? Let's have the courage. Anybody out there think the world's a little uncomfortable right now? There are stories out there that make us uncomfortable. And we've gotten into the habit of we can just change the channel when we're not comfortable. We can find something else to watch. What if you and I had the courage to sit in our own discomfort so long that we actually had to act? Because for far too many of us, we live in this really fast-paced world where we got to get everything. We got to get it done. You know, we want it now. We live in this fast-paced, say that 10 times. We live in this fast-paced world where we become convinced, we've convinced ourselves that if we just simply feel bad about a situation, then that's good enough. Oh my goodness, that's so sad, moving on. Oh my goodness, that's so sad, moving on. Oh my goodness, that's so sad, moving on. Is that good enough? No, right? If we see somebody on the side of the road and they're bleeding and we're like, oh my goodness, somebody should help them, that's so sad, and keep walking, what good does it do to the person bleeding on the side of the road? I think Jesus actually taught about that. I think it was called the Good Samaritan. You should Google it, read it. Right? We're like, oh my goodness, that's so sad. Somebody should do something. Oh my goodness, that's so sad. Somebody, you know who that somebody is? You and me. John Pavlovitz says, we need ordinary heroes who are profoundly burdened by the suffering off in the distance in the same way that it's occurring at arm's length. We need people who have a love for the people. We need people who have a love for people that transcends faith traditions or political affiliations or national borders. This is the part that got me. It says we need ordinary heroes, somebody who sees the child across town as inherently valuable as the person in their own nursery. We need ordinary heroes who sees the child across town as inherently valuable as the child in your own nursery. How many of us would do anything for the child in our own nursery if they were hungry or hurting or experienced prejudice? We would do anything. Why won't we do that for the child across town? Are we willing to be those people? Are you willing to be that person? Are we willing to be that church? To get up in the morning and face the stuff that scares us that haunts us, that hurts us. Right? Teenagers that we can't connect with. This is Pavlovitz's list. A spouse who feels like a stranger, a diagnosis that took us to our knees, a failing business, a piece of legislation that keeps you up at night. Are we willing to be the people that face the things that scare us? Are we willing to face the fact that a world where all lives actually don't matter until Black lives matter and brown lives matter and gay lives matter and trans lives matter and immigrants' lives matter? Until we can say all of those individual lives matter, we cannot say all lives matter. Are we willing to get up and say this world needs people? Willing to face all of that and choose to put on compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Somebody who chooses to put on our all-purpose garment, that ligament that holds us all together, love, all-inclusive, world-changing, hope-inducing, radically relentless love. Some days clothes are about more than clothes. So what garments are you going to put on today that will affect how you change the world? Hey, y'all, this song is, it's one that really posits us right in the position of making a choice. You and I we can just sit. Like, we can sit in the idea of love. We can bask in the idea of love and not do anything. Or we can go out and make the world different. Right? I believe that our God has called us to something higher than just sitting idly by and watching the world burn. So this song calls us to that reality. I could just sit and wait for all your goodness, hope to feel your presence. I could just stay right where I am and hope to feel you. Hope to feel something again. I could just sit and wait for all your goodness, hope to feel your presence. I could just stay right where I am and hope to feel you, hope to feel something again. But you have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. You have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. Will you lead me? Will you lead me, Lord? I could hold on to who I am and never let you change me from the inside. I could be safe, oh, I could be safe here in your arms and never leave home, never let these walls down. But you have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. You have called me higher, you have called me deeper, I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. You lead me, you lead me, Lord. I will be yours, oh, I will be yours for all my life. I will be yours, oh, I will be yours for all my life. I will be yours, oh, I will be yours for all my life, so let your mercy. I will be yours, Lord, I will be yours for all my life, so let your mercy light the path before me. You have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. You have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. You have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. You have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. Where you lead me, where you lead me, Lord. Where you lead me, where you lead me, Lord. Where you lead me. Hey, I'd like to read you a little bit more of Wendell Berry. This comes from Colossians Remixed by Brian Walsh and Sylvia Keesmaat. This is a poem by Wendell Berry, and thought it was a very fitting benediction. So friends, every day do something that won't compute. Love the Lord, love the world, work for nothing. Take all that you have and be poor. Love someone who does not deserve it, because this is a vision of life that embraces humility and patience. Give your approval to all that you cannot understand. Praise ignorance, for what man has not encountered, he has not destroyed. Ask the questions that have no answers. Invest in the millennium. Plant sequoias. Say that your main crop is the forest that you did not plant, that you will not live to harvest, so that the leaves are to be harvested when they have rotted in the mold. Call that prophet. Prophesy such returns. This manifesto, this community is committed to life and life more abundant. He ends it by saying, practice resurrection. God be with you until we meet again.
God be with you till we meet again. By his counsels God uphold you. With his sheep secure